I'm live. Okay.
I'm splashing mine. Yours is fine.
What is this? 2 and 3?
You know, I'm like,
Go right in front of the camera. Sir? Black cherries and
Sorry, I was hoping it would land on the table.
it's so hard to turn your crotch.
It's working. I don't know one word. Sorry. All right.
Wait, go back.
So,
Looks even worse.
welcome to my TED Talks.
As you can
So-
see, we got the broom closet in the back.
So what even is the name of this panel? Life of a Furry YouTuber, right? That's about it. Engineering, but I don't know what happened. I was kind of asked to do this panel last second, and I kind of just thought of a name on the spot, but when I kind of thought of it in depth, meaning like 2 days ago, I wanted it to be something more unique. So most of you know that I did a panel at MFF, so you want to be a Furry YouTuber, the basics to what you would need to know, mic, video editing stuff. Just the straightforward stuff you could probably look up online. Now, you can find this easily, but the issue with that is it's all kind of been done before, those sorts of panels, and with this panel, I kind of wanted it to be more viewer-directed, but I also wanted to give like a presentation just so I can give you guys some ideas on what you might want to know. Because from what I've seen with previous panels, unfortunately, is there isn't that much of like a drive or a passion for it. It's just going over the same stuff. But with experience on YouTube, you kind of learn some different things about how things work. For say the business perspective. Most people don't really think of that. So I kind of wanted this to be a follow-up to that first panel. And I kind of have it driven off of 3 main topics. The first one being, which you can't even read any of it here, so I'll explain it. The first topic we could possibly go through is just how you even start YouTube. Like, what are you doing? What direction do you take it? You know, you might have a channel name, you might have this, that, these, and those, but you don't really know what to do. And that's the main thing that might sort of stop you from even uploading that first video or doing anything. So we'd be going into that. The second topic would be the business versus fun aspect. Now, you might laugh being like, oh, I don't want to think of this as business, but you kind of have to. And with that topic, I'd explain why and how to find the balance between that. And for the third possible topic, we talked about the idea of the community, the fandom, and how it kind of impacts what you can do on YouTube. So I wasn't originally going to go as like, show of hands who wants to do this topic, that topic, but after practicing this like multiple times in empty classrooms and having students like be scared of me talking to no one, I kind of just decided I'm going to go with it because all these topics do relate to one another, either in the order or in some random order. But I guess for 30 minutes of this, we're going to just have the presentation, and then for the second half of it, how many minutes are we into this? Like 5? 2? 2. Oh, amazing! I'm doing better than I thought. So we'll have a presentation, and then for the second half, you guys can ask questions, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Because you might have questions now. I know plenty of people have asked me several questions either on my live streams or my comments, but you might just not know what necessarily the question is that might help you in what you want to do on YouTube. Because I believe anyone can do it. Anyone can start doing YouTube the way I do it or the way anyone does it. It's just a matter of figuring that out and learning from experience. So with that, we'll start with the first topic. What are you doing on YouTube? What do you want to do? How do you start? And that's just the question that I get multiple times, and I answer it about the same way. Now, people always ask me, hey, what should I do for my YouTube channel? Should I do what you do? Can I use your character still style? Is it okay? For the record, I didn't create the style of using those animation things in my videos. I just kind of went with it and did it. But people ask me, like, what do you do? How do I start? And that's kind of the weird thing. With me, when I started YouTube, it was like a good 6 or 7 years ago. I started it like way before I got into high school, so I've been here. I've seen everything, and it's kind of weird saying that. I started originally as my inspirations for YouTube being Markiplier, ironically, was why I went to engineering, Achievement Hunter, and then a third guy, which some may or may not know, The Legend of Thunder, or 402 Thunder 402. Those that don't know who he is, he's a Call of Duty commentator, and he still does it. And I guess the idea of it kind of inspired me to do what I do. The whole concept of his videos was to talk just about anything, throw Call of Duty gameplay in the back or whatever he was doing, either talk about that, talk about gaming, talk about whatever was on his mind. And that whole concept kind of attracted me, where I could just speak my mind, and I could present some sort of story that people would be interested in. And that's how I got immediately hooked on commentating. I bought a $16 mic from Best Buy, I bought a game capture, and then I just started doing that. You can find my first video that I did on YouTube. It's still there. And it kind of shows from that one point, from that first video, that I still have that passion with what I do. I still love commentating, even though I've been screaming into a mic for 2 hours a day ever since like 6 years ago. I've kind of improved in that. And that's what you would learn through experience. So I didn't really answer the question. What do you do? How do you start with YouTube? And I kind of learned the answer to this, ironically, when I was watching a Ninja live stream. Everyone was asking him, like, how do I start doing YouTube? I want to be like you. And he answers it the same way every time. Whatever idea that you have, whatever thought, whatever you enjoy doing, dancing, singing, fursuit making, whatever you might like, start doing that now. Make a video on it. I don't care if it's used with Windows Movie Maker or anything. Put it together, upload it, do it now. Because as soon as you get your foot in the door with whatever you're doing, you can learn over time through experience how to improve it and what you might actually want to do. Like I said, I wasn't starting with character stills or doing what I do now. I wasn't talking about the furry fandom 6 or 7 years ago. I started literally talking over like Halo gameplay and talking about news relating to that. Yeah, I was pretty young when I was doing that. But you kind of just learn over time from starting off with that. You learn like what styles you might want to pick up. And it's all about like the growing experience. I know I'm kind of reiterating what I said. So what I've learned with that is just to keep working. I know it's like ironic to say just do it, keep doing it. But you do kind of learn where you fit in or what might work for you. You find your niche. And even though I found my niche for like what I do on YouTube immediately, I didn't exactly grow it right away. I've been doing it for 6 to 7 years, and only like 1 to 2 years ago I found something that worked. So the first answer to the question, what are you doing, where do you come, what should you do, is, I don't know, whatever really works for you. And it kind of relates in some way to a video I did around a year ago called Talents in the Furry Fandom, where, you know, whatever you may be good at, whatever is your niche, whatever you enjoy doing, you do that. And it doesn't have to be necessarily what you're good at. Like, I might be good at this engineering nonsense right here that's been drilled into my head for the past week and a half, but I'm not passionate about it. I don't like it. It's not that I don't like it. I might not be good at, I might be good at it, but I might not like it. So what you need to do...
Isn't that static forces on the body?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. But the point is, you have to find what speaks to you. Whatever shows who you are, how you are, however way you can express yourself in your videos, whatever you might want to do, start with that. You could start like on a completely obligatory topic or anything, and it's just dwindling it down to what you might want to do. And I hope that sort of answered the question of that, because there really is no specific way. I can't tell you, oh, do this video, you know, do this, capitalize on this. Because at the end of the day, when you're doing YouTube, you want to have fun with it. And if you are passionate for it, you can succeed with it. Which kind of brings me on to the second topic of the business perspective of YouTube versus the fun perspective of YouTube. We've all kind of seen people, quote unquote, sell out or sort of just do what's best for their channel, but not what's best for them or what they might like. You know, you have people going into, I don't know, clickbait titles, this and that, but the idea is you have to find the balance of what you do. And when you start with YouTube, the most important thing to start with is the fun perspective. Like I can, ignore the business, ignore growing. Okay, growing will happen. You'll figure it out with time of what works. But what you need to figure out when you're starting, until you have a style that works and you love doing, is what's fun to you. Because when it's as old as time was saying, if you're having fun in a video and you're showing it, your viewers are going to have fun with it too. Like I've had countless streams and videos where I've just been completely angry and people have noticed that and people just don't want to be there. Because at the end of the day, even though you might have a specific video style, something that anyone likes, they're there for you. And that's what you kind of have to capitalize on. Most of these people that do go straight into the business perspective of YouTube, they don't really look at the fun factor. They just do what is good for them and how to keep their channel afloat, whether they're living off of it. And it's, in some sense, unhealthy. Now, even though that's a long way from where people are starting, that's a long way where I am, I've still managed to keep the business and fun aspect into play. And it should always be when you're starting, it should just be straight fun. Whatever your heart tells you what to do. If it's commentary, if it's gaming, God forbid, good luck with that on YouTube. But the point of it is to have fun. You know? And it's really all I can say with that. And I guess another aspect of it, going into more of a depth, is you are going to want to, at some point, think of the business perspective of it. Because as much as people might argue it, and this was a big argument back when I was starting YouTube, the argument was that, oh, if you like getting views on your video, that means you're horrible or selling out. No, you don't make videos for people to not watch it. You want the time and effort you put into it to be worth what people enjoy out of it or might see it. You know, Adler, for example, Adler the Eagle doesn't put hundreds of hours into his videos for just his own enjoyment, for just no one to watch it. He wants people to watch it and he wants people to be livened up. You want people's days to be better for it. And that's what you kind of want to achieve. Uploading videos for the sake of just, oh, you know, you want to not get views. No, you want to get views. You want to grow. You want your brand, you want your personality to be seen as a good thing. You want people to enjoy it. And even though people might say, oh, this and that about people, I'm rambling on, my apologies. But
I've already kind of established a brand on my YouTube channel. Me fursuiting as the big bad wolf and my mini YouTube poops. Anyone ever heard of those?
Yep.
Those mashups, I've made quite a few, and they seem to be my most popular videos. My most popular one is one I did of Caillou, the infamous episode where he throws a tantrum over the circus not being that day. It's gotten over 1 million views.
And the point of it should be that if you enjoy doing that, you should go with that. It shouldn't be for the sake of, oh, what's going to get me the most views. You might want to think of that.
I like to do them just for fun. I know what's off the popular YouTube poops and what I like to do. I know I often like my Arthur and Caillou YouTube poops get the most views, and I have fun doing YouTube poops in those two shows.
Yeah, and you just have to kind of figure out what works for you, and if that's that, then you just have to enjoy it or make something from it.
And lately I've been doing YouTube poops of Richard Scary stuff too. I recently uploaded one a couple weeks ago. It's gotten over 1,000 views so far.
Yeah, cool. That's good. Like I said, personality should stand up in both standards. Because from what I know, with people that do focus mainly on, their channel being successful, is you can't really sometimes distinguish one person from another. In the community that I was in before I joined the fandom, everyone was talking about Logan Paul. And the issue with that is because even though these people look different or did different styles, or still have the 10-minute long videos, I can't tell the difference between one or another. Maybe the name might be different, maybe how they speak might be different, but they're still doing the same sort of routine. And it sort of feels like they caught on to what was successful and only went for that. And in some sense, you know, there's really nothing else that comes with that besides just Logan Paul, talking about Logan Paul, making fun of Logan Paul, and that's it. So, I doubt that people would probably do that in this room if you were to do YouTube, but you should put your personality first and what makes you happy first, especially when you grow. And now we kind of get on to, just quick, time check, where are we at for time?
3:15.
3:13.
Wow, I'm going way too quick. If I'm going too fast, tell me, I can slow down a bit.
Or we can have a big Q&A
A
section.
big Q&A would be bad. But the third portion of, which is supposed to be a 10-minute segment of this panel, was supposed to be the most important. Because the sense of community and the sense of a fandom is probably the biggest advantage that a lot of people have. It's something that I never had when I started YouTube. When you started YouTube back in the day, you had maybe your friends and maybe your parents, unless they didn't want you to take down your channel because you were embarrassing the family or something like that. That did happen to me, actually. But the point is, you didn't have that. You didn't have people that really wanted to help one another. You didn't have people that were looking at smaller guys' channels and being like, this is amazing. You know, you could have the best possible content, you could have like no subs, no views, and people wouldn't even bat an eye. But with the fandom, you kind of have the advantage of people that are willing to give an ear and an eye. Specifically an eye because videos. You have people that are willing to give feedback. Now, as much as it might be hard for me to say give feedback to everyone, because I have several people messaging me, hey, can you look at this video, can you look at this video? And I do go through them and I do try to give feedback, but the point is, you have people that care about one another in a welcoming community. And that is one way to kind of, in some sense, jumpstart what you do on YouTube. You know, and as much as I hate to say it, it might be under the idea of what you can do better than what someone else might do, or how you can improve it in some way. Because I've seen several people try to do videos of mine, and they do it in their own style, and it works. But improving it may be, I'm gonna backtrack. I'm screwing this up. Backtrack to fandom. When you have videos that you kind of want to get out there, you know, you have online friends to help with that. You know, you have a lot more people that are willing to give you an ear and an eye, like I said. I didn't have that before, so that is probably one of the biggest things that I see people not really utilizing. I see a lot of people immediately go to me like, oh, I'm starting a channel, can you give me feedback? Which that's fine. But use the people that you have that support you, who love your personality. Personality is the big thing with YouTube and videos. Use that. Like, send those videos to those people who are willing to watch, they'll give you feedback, they'll watch it. And in some sense, that will help you in some way. That'll help you start something rather than nothing. And even from that, you kind of have to, in some sense, use the inspirations that you might have. I know a lot of people are here just for the sake that I'm doing this panel. Yeah. So.
We also like pineapple.
Yes. I love pineapple. Yeah. But
Pineapple, notice me.
I'm
too short, but yeah.
I actually got something to deliver to you.
I completely lost my train of thought.
Ear and eye.
You're good.
People who love you and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah. Use the people that care about you for you. It's kind of what I found even before. I'll answer questions after this because I'm kind of.
somebody has something to give you.
Oh, we'll do it after. So, what I found with this fandom immediately from joining, because I did YouTube, of course, before I joined the fandom, and I had something going before I officially joined, which in, I think 2 days from now will be my first official year, full year in the fandom, which I'm pretty excited about. But, you know, from what I noticed, it really didn't matter what you had or what you could offer. I had people that sort of came up to me and wanted to say hi to me and wanted to befriend me, for my personality. I had been used to pulling teeth to make friends, just based off of communities and previous friends I'd had. But that's what I kind of realized, and even though I didn't necessarily capitalize on it, I feel like people can. Because if people do care, I feel like I'm making this sound like, oh, use your friends to help you grow. Which in some sense, you kind of have to, but not for that sole purpose. You know, if you enjoy doing what you do online, if you have a passion for it, if you enjoy it and your personality is likable, which to at least one person your personality is likable, then you can do something on YouTube. And I do want to clarify as well with like styles and such. Because the whole idea of like my style of character skills, I know I've mentioned this before. You can do stuff like that. Don't think that because you might be inspired by someone that and you want to do those videos like that, doesn't mean that you're copying someone. Unless you're doing word for word their videos, that's different. What I kind of learned with how to exactly jumpstart where I was going, because even before last summer, I really wasn't going anywhere on YouTube. And I kind of thought, you know, you have these topics that kind of have holes in it, and I've always wanted to be informative. I've always wanted to teach people. So I kind of took that into mind, and I kind of took, well, I have some life experience. I go outside sometimes, and I have a few friends. So let's kind of apply that to what we might want to talk about and how that can bring a different person's perspective into play on that topic. And so I did that. I kind of saw these topics on from other furry YouTubers that they did that I could give a different input on. A prime example of this, and I use this all the time, is Ace of Hearts Fox's Young Furries video. I originally saw that video and I learned, you know, this is kind of neat, but I felt like I could give my own twist on it and my own experiences and perspective on it and kind of speak for more of the young furs out there than some other people, because I had sort of some experience that I don't want to talk about with that. But that's what you can sort of put a spin on. And you know, who knew that video would do so well and everyone loved it and it attracted so many people? And I guess that's some approach that you might want to take with YouTube, is be inspired. You know, look up to those you look up to and take that into consideration for what you do. Because even though, like, I might not watch The Legend of Thunder anymore, I surely was still inspired by what he did, and I'm inspired now, because I love doing what I do. I love talking. And whatever that might be, whether you want to dance like Strobes, whether you want to make fursuits like, I can't remember who the YouTuber's name is.
Sky?
Sky. If whatever you might want to do, use that for what you can, use that for what you might want to build off of. You know, perspective and experience and personality all kind of go into one. Because each person is going to have their own unique way of making their videos. You know, I know people that do character skills in the furry community, like I do, and they have their own way of doing it. And sometimes I feel like I have to take notes of what they do, because it's not necessarily, because mine is sort of, you know, formal, and some others might be more fun, carefree. I'm like, you know, that kind of looks a bit better and it sounds like nicer to do. So I kind of just think of that and I apply that maybe to my videos. But, you know, regardless of what style, what way of doing videos you might do it, everyone has their own personality and their own perspective to put into it. I'm kind of rambling on at this point. I kind of think we covered all the notes we had, and that's quicker than I thought it would have gone.
322.
Okay, that's pretty all right. So, for this section, I kind of want to go into Q&A. And if you have any specific questions on what you might want to know that I might have experience with, just let me know for questions, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can.
I have a suggestion. Should we form a line behind the,
I mean, I guess I can just pick hands one at a time. Just remember to speak up when you have a question, just so everyone else can hear it. You.
So the video editing process, is it normally a hard thing to do, and how long does it usually take?
It definitely is dependent on what video you might be doing. If I'm doing a video, it could take me roughly maybe 20 to 40 hours to work on. If it's someone like Adler, like I said, it's going to take like probably a week's worth of time to work on it. But you kind of put into it, the more experience that you have on the software, as boring as it might be, the more experience that you have on a certain software or what editing style, whatever you want to do, you kind of learn what's fun and some shortcuts with like what you can do with it. Like what I learned is that I sometimes love editing the audio in my videos. As much as it might be tedious, you know, I add some parts that are comedic that I can go back and laugh on. You know, some people do funny moments videos, not for the sake that, oh, you know, it's just funny moments. Some people enjoy it because they love editing that. And I've had, you know, videos like that in the past where I'm like, oh my god, I'm crying laughing from how good this is. But as much as it's like, as much as it can vary on the level of how fun or boring or how long it might be, the point of it is you might have you want a finished product, you want something that you're proud of. So, experience on anything, whether it be on YouTube, editing software, recording videos, all of that, you build up and learn with time. I hope they answered that correctly. Yes? Me? Yes.
What do you do if you want to make videos but you don't have a video maker? Like, I don't think I have Windows 10, I don't think they have Windows Movie Maker anymore on 10.
No, they don't. It's because a lot of consumers prefer to like buy like a more robust consumer video editor like Magic's Vegas Movie Studio or Cyberlink Power Director. They're
Okay.
way better than Movie Maker.
But how do you start making videos if you can't afford one of those things?
I think there are some free, simple freeware apps out there.
So, it's definitely different from what I grew up with because everyone used Movie Maker back in the day.
Oh yeah.
It's hard now, I'm assuming, because it might not be available. And I won't expressively say that you can get higher quality video editing softwares different ways that aren't expensive.
Yeah.
But there are ways to do it. And I guess the way you might want to look into is depending, I kind of do this a lot with my school. If you're in college or in some formal institution, some organization or something that does have access to that, you can maybe look into that. I know my school has access to Adobe Premiere, even though I don't use it. I bought all of my Sony Vegas programs, and that is a mistake I do regret.
And Magic's now owns Vegas.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jero. I'm a friend of Beta's. A few suggestions. If you have a .edu email, Adobe has their entire their entire Creative Suite. Thank you. It's called the Creative Cloud. It is a monthly subscription, but it's not terribly expensive. For me, it's around $30 a month, and I have access to Photoshop, After Effects, Lightroom, Premiere, and it's everything you could possibly make for any kind of media creation. It's even got Flash tools. So if that's something you're interested in, take a look.
Oh, and for you Mac users, don't forget.
Final Cut is free.
Don't forget. I know Final Cut Pro 10. How it's $300, but it costs less than the Adobe Suite, and it can now pretty much do everything Premiere Pro can do. But
Yes.
but it has that nice background rendering, so it works faster.
I don't really know what else might be possibly free, but there are things online that you can use.
Yeah, of
in
course.
videos.
Of course, for the Mac users, iMovie is free, and it's pretty good.
Hey, heads up.
What?
Let the panel talk a little bit more, please.
Next
Oh,
question.
sorry.
Anyone have? Oh, Pineapple.
I have a question.
Yes.
What's your biggest challenge in starting your YouTube channel, and how did you actually solve it?
I guess probably my biggest challenge that I kind of found, and I know this is kind of evident with a lot of people, is when you start it at a young age, not too many people look at you the best way because of how you might sound, your voice, being young and doing YouTube. And that's something that I guess for me I worked on with age and time and experience. As much as people might, and this is another thing that people can be degrading with what they do, and there's someone out there that might hate what you do for whatever reason, or it could be the dumbest reason. The point is with that, it did get to me a lot. And that kind of unmotivated me to do what I did online for some time when I started. So I kind of learned with time that, you know, my passion for what I do and what I want to achieve and what I want to do was make people happy kind of outweighed that. And I used my experience with time and learning how to necessarily speak, even though public speaking is my forte, clearly. I kind of just learned. Even though you might start YouTube at a young age and it might stink a bit, you do just, the point is experiences, what you kind of learn. I'm not really answering these questions that great. Right, Jira.
How do you get past the YouTube version of art blog?
Ooh, that's actually something that I learned how to do recently. So, not everyone's going to know what idea that they might want to do with YouTube. Especially when starting, you might not know what video to make or what video to start with. And I get that a lot of times now, where I have no clue what I want to do for a video, and some videos kind of just happen last second. But what I've learned, specifically with figuring out what I want to do, is I've just gone out and lived life, or have done something. You know, instead of sitting in front of a computer screen for like 5 hours and just trying to brute force it, sometimes I might take a break and go for a walk around my campus. Most of the time, what I try to do when I need to script videos is I go to Boston. I take a train ride to Boston, 3-hour period that I have. I don't know what it is, but traveling just kind of helps me figure out what I want to do for ideas. And you know, you kind of see this with some other YouTubers, mainly vloggers, who go out and do all these things, and that's why some of them are as popular as they are, because they go out and experience life and do things that other people wish they could do. And that's where you can sort of figure out some ideas on what to do. You know, just live life. That's, I guess, the simple answer of where I can put it.
So something like the scene for YouTuber?
Yeah, I'd say so. All right, next question. Oh, fine. You in the front.
So I live in a situation, I also go to college, but all of my friends, the people I'm really close to, are really opposed to furries and the furry community. Do you have any advice on like keeping up like a face, but also like privacy to avoid any controversy in your real life?
That is kind of tough to do, especially with YouTube being a public platform and everything you do is kind of thrown out there to the world. Now, I never really know how to approach it when anyone asks me, all my friends hate furries and I'm a furry, what do I do? It's really hard to figure out what exactly to do in that situation. Even making a video to like show those people, it's really hard to do because everyone has their experience or opinions as ignorant or naive as they might be. And it does stink. However, I guess you kind of have to weigh what you really want to do with that. You know, maybe some friends might be, maybe you might not know, maybe your friends might be understanding as to you wanting to do YouTube and be related to furry stuff. Maybe they might not be. And if they have those really strict opinions, sometimes you might have to figure out, like, do they really, I don't want to say pick and choose friends, but you might want to figure out, do they care for you the way they do, or do they see that this one raw aspect of you and they're like, oh, this is perfect, we don't want anything else, sort of. But I'd say go with where your heart leads you. Go with what you're passionate about and what you really, really love and want to do. Because if you really, really love and want to do YouTube and some certain aspect of it, you'll find that some other people do like to do that as well. So there's a way of like collaborating and being friends with those people and relating to them, but there's really no easy way I can answer that question besides do what makes you happy. Yes?
Piggybacking on that question, does YouTube allow you to create an account using a pen name, so to say?
Yeah.
So you can have your YouTube Furrydom and your life separate?
You can have, which is the benefit of having an online account on YouTube, is you can have a personality or something you do completely separate from the people that know you. So like, I guess this does actually answer your question in some sense of, you know, you can have that personality from your Fursona or character, what you do that you want to emphasize compared to what you might show when you're with your friends that are kind of against that sort of thing. And yeah, I guess there's a way to do it in that sense and keep it quiet. There's really no need to show them that, like, look, I do YouTube videos, I do this and that. There's a way of hiding it, and there's no guarantee that they may or may not find it out, but there are safer ways to approach it without them knowing it's like you know?
Mind if I add to that?
Yes.
So I actually have Google offers a branding account on YouTube, so you can make a Google account with a different email, whatever email you want, and then go in there and actually brand yourself off of that email and create a whole new account with a name that you want to use for your YouTube channel. And it doesn't even have to relate back to your email at all. So
Nice.
it's like a separate account on Google just for that.
Very good.
All right, next question. I know Timmis has had his hand up for a while.
Oh, they,
Yes.
So I wanted to ask about YouTube algorithms, because, yeah.
What specific question like you have with that? Because I could be talking for the next 48 hours.
I honestly, just like, how can you like increase chances of YouTube recommending your videos? Like, how?
So,
what can you work?
this is actually something I completely forgot to mention. With doing YouTube and how I managed to get where it was pure luck. In some sense, it actually was kind of figuring out what to do, but in the sense of it actually going off to the way it did, was luck. And what you kind of notice is when you do upload videos of like some variety of like, oh, I'm gonna try a little bit of this or I'll try some of that, you kind of notice that even with minimal tags or minimal this and that or views or subs, you kind of figure, oh, some people are kind of attracted to this specific thing. You know, you see one video has like maybe 100 views or 50 views, and the rest of your videos might have like 10 or 20 or so. So you kind of have to look at what that video did right, and it might actually be just the topic of that video. For me, when I made the 7 Levels of Being Furry, I originally did it, you know, a couple of years back. It was like 4 or 5 years back in high school, where I had crappy gameplay in the back, kind of stuttered, rambled on for 20 minutes. It was awful. But the video itself was kind of slowly getting recommended over time because of YouTube. I'm like, why is that happening? So I kind of looked into that, and I'm like, can I make this better within the style of what I do? And that's what I did. And originally I did like well. It got like 50 likes, a couple hundred views. And then it just kind of got recommended from there. Why that happened, I'm really not sure. And there's really no way to exactly pinpoint down where an algorithm is going with YouTube, because it's changed from when I started, when the Harlem Shake was a thing, to now where I don't even know what the algorithm is anymore, and I really don't care. But you kind of just have to figure out, in some sense, maybe fads of like what's going on with like dabbing, flossing, all this nonsense. You kind of have to figure out what is popular at the time, and what your personality can sort of contribute to that kind of makes you stand out amongst others. I hope that sort of answered that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. You in the back over there.
Me?
Yes.
So, as the furry YouTube scene kind of flourishes, there are many reoccurring themes in terms of style of videos, such as bedroom-type vlogs. What are your thoughts on originality, and do you think it ups your chances of making it kind of, sorry to sound cliche, big on furry YouTube?
Now that's actually a great question, because originality doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be successful. I know people that have original ideas in the past that they wanted to make videos on, and it didn't do well, and then they ended up talking about Logan Paul, and that did great. But in some sense, you kind of aren't really original. There's no real sense of originality, because almost everything that we can think of, unless someone has some brand new amazing idea, has kind of been done. You know, with the sort of fad/trend scene of like what is popular within all communities and sort of growing to be known, either memes or anything really, it's kind of a shot in the dark as to what is going to be big or what original is going to be big. And in some sense, you kind of have to take away the idea of originality and think of the idea of uniqueness. think that whatever video you've done or you're going to do has already been done before, probably millions of times at this point. So, you want to see what you can make better of what those videos are. You want to see what you can contribute that is more you than what those videos have or kind of have to offer. So, I hope that kind of answers the question. There's really no sense of originality being a big thing on YouTube. You kind of just have to see what has done well and apply that.
All right, thank you.
Right. You.
As a furry YouTuber who has more attention on them, does it ever get overwhelming? And like, how do you deal with it?
I will be honest, and it does get very overwhelming at times. With the idea that, you know, with the fandom being as open and welcoming as it is, it's a lot easier to see these people that you might look up to or get to meet them. Similar to like celebrities, there's like no chance you're gonna see like Leonardo DiCaprio or meet him because everyone's gonna see or know him. But I guess in the fandom it's a lot easier to see that, and with that, it's a lot easier to recognize those people and want to say hi to them. And with that, it does get overwhelming, but you kind of learn with time and experience what your comfort level is, and you learn through social interaction, per se, how to necessarily handle certain situations, certain encounters that you might have with people. And I'm not saying that I don't like meeting my fans. I love meeting people. Like, anyone that comes up to me and like even says I love what you do, that like makes my day, honestly. I love that. The fact that people are here watching my panel, that makes my day. This is like amazing to me. But, you know, when a lot of people want to meet you all at one time, it does get overwhelming. And what I've kind of learned is, both through advice and experience, is you kind of just learn. You kind of learn what your tolerance, your limit is, how you can handle that. There's no real easy way per se how to do that, and each way someone might do that is kind of just their own way. So that's the way I can answer that. You right there. One more.
Me?
Yes.
So yeah, so how do you come up with your persona?
What?
How do you come up with your persona?
I did a video on this. I do have 2 videos that I did on my channel where I did talk about that. The simple way was originally, how it kind of got me into fandom is I was a big fan of Digimon. Like, I loved it. That's what I was into in high school. And I saw this one, I was like, I kind of want a character that's my own, that like not too many people use. Because back when I was in the community before the fandom, they didn't call these like characters that you had personas. They thought, oh, it's just an OC that you sort of stand by that's unique to yourself. They kind of frowned on the idea of personas. It was weird. But I kind of picked up one that I enjoyed. I really liked the Hackmon Sona design. I made him anthropomorphized, and over time I kind of just built him to who he is now. And he's not a Digimon anymore. He's his own wolf dragon. But that's kind of the simple answer. Over time I kind of just figured, I like this guy.
Yeah, similar to my Sona, it's usually a Pokemon. But, yeah.
You over there, green shirt.
19
minutes.
Oh.
So I was wondering, when you're making videos and posting them online, do you think it's better to stick to a schedule, or just post them when you think that they're ready?
I'd say definitely stick to a schedule. That's the big thing. Figuring out, regardless of what audience you might have, figure out when it is an ideal time for them to see that video is crucial. And even still, I don't know what the ideal time is. You know, sometimes I'll upload at 4 and it's amazing, sometimes I'll upload at 5 and people are like, this doesn't work for me. It's complicated, but you kind of just learn over time that certain days and certain time slots are the best times to upload. Like, I'll try to avoid uploading the same time, same day a furry YouTuber does. Or I'll try to have it as my own uploading. That's why I upload every Tuesday at like 4 p.m. because it works for people in my time, it works for people getting out of school on the West Coast, and it works for people in European countries in that time zone. So absolutely stick with the schedule if you can. And then you gray sweatshirt.
Me? Oh,
yes.
So I've been making animations on YouTube for a while. Not very good, but I was wondering, I've always had a fear of being put into a cringe compilation. Do you ever, like, what are your thoughts on those?
So yeah, that is definitely something that I do worry about, and that's something I have been a part of. I've personally been in furry cringe, like I think 3 of like 20 or something. That's the one guy did. But that's kind of something that you do have to understand may happen online with doing YouTube, that your videos are going out to the world, and it's not, and it shouldn't discourage you that not to do it, because there will be people that find anything cringy or bad. It's just how people perceive it to be. But if your intentions in the animations you do are good, you're passionate, and you want to make people happy, that is all that matters. Because some guy somewhere is going to hate what I do. There are already people that hate what I do and try to like dox me, and that's not cool at all. But if your intentions are good and you want to keep people happy, I'd say do that. Do not worry about what people think is like furry cringe. Most of those people, like, they honestly are kind of degenerates in some sense. But there are people here that support what you do in some sense with animations. And if you want to make people happy and people are happy, then that is all that matters.
Thank you.
Yes. And you in the front.
Okay. So first, I wanted to ask,
Speaking up, sorry for asking.
what is it like? How do you like schedule and like work out like collabs?
I guess in some sense I don't really know how to answer this, because all the collabs that I've really done, I've sort of just initiated last second and like, oh, I'll implement them into a video, or when people want to collab with me, they just sort of ask me and I go with it. But I guess in some sense you kind of have to find people around like what you do who can contribute to what you might be talking about. With asking for it, you generally just like ask, hey, I want to do a collab, I want to work together, and you sort of pitch the idea of what you have and see if people want to work with that idea. That's the main thing. It's like, if you want to collab or work with someone, you have to convince them that what you're doing or what idea you might have is something that might be worth their time, or they can invest in, that contributes to that idea. And I'd say as well, work with people around like the level you might be at. I know that's kind of cliche to say of like, do YouTube with like someone who has 50 subs if you have 50 subs. But honestly, it kind of just works in some sense. And it shouldn't be for the sake of, oh, everyone's going to grow in the end. It should be for this, more for the sake of, oh, this video will be better if I do it with this person, or this video will be good if I do this. So that's just the way I see it. You in the middle right there. I see your hand. Yes.
Do you get hate in the fandom? And if you do, how do you deal with it?
So in the fandom, I guess, as much as I might get so much love, I do get some hate from some people. People do try to dig up some things that have happened in the past where I wasn't the best person, but and in some sense, I can't really control how they feel. You know, I can only be as best of a person as I can be currently. And I use what they say about me or what I did as motivation for, have I changed since then? Have I improved myself in a year since that time? And can I wholeheartedly say that what I'm doing is good? If you can answer those 3, then, you know, you've improved. And it's kind of hard to view what people say, whether it be hate or like your videos stink or this or that, as motivation to do better. But in some sense, when you see kind of the same stuff over time, you kind of learn that not everyone is going to like you and what you do. And you kind of just have to do what you're happy with more often than not. It's kind of hard to really answer that because everyone has their own way of perceiving quote-unquote hate, and people don't necessarily see certain hate as being hate, they see it as feedback. So it really just depends on what you perceive and how you can improve on what they say. If they're willing to give criticism if they hate what you do, then that means they're willing that they want you to potentially change it. If it's for the better, that's good, you can maybe do that. If it's for the worse, then, you know, maybe don't. If they tell you the usual stereotypical, oh, let's hunt furries, yeah, that's no. Yeah. So, next question, you right there in front.
So my YouTube channel's been based around like painting and art for a really long time, and most of my subscribers are only interested in that, but I've really been trying to implement my fursuits in, but no one seems to be interested. Do you have any like advice on how I might be able to introduce my fursuits in more, or maybe what I can do with that?
So, with that, for the fandom specifically, those are sort of two different topics that do mesh at some point. It may be hard to implement, art into fursuits and what you do with that. But in some sense, some people will be there for one specific thing or another specific thing. And the idea is you want to kind of capitalize on the people that will be there for your personality or what you're passionate about, what you can bring. If your videos are you talking about something specifically with fursuiting or talking about something specifically with art, they may come there for you or they may come there for what that specific topic is. But it may be hard to see that, it may be discouraging, per se, that certain videos may do better than others, and you might feel trapped to do those videos. But that kind of just relates with the business aspect of, you don't necessarily do that. You want to have fun with it. So throwing in variety of what you do with fursuits and stuff, a little at a time, may kind of bridge that gap a little bit. Because if you drown them all in fursuit stuff and all you're used to is art stuff, it may increase subscriber burnout and such. So just slowly implementing some small change or some small video that you enjoy doing will kind of make people more adjusted to that. It's more of a schedule basis than anything. So that's how I answer it. Dennis again.
Yeah, it's kind of like adding on that. So basically, this is from my own personal experience, but like typically there could, and like you said with luck, like it's luck for to get a lot of views or whatever. Don't feel like that's your goal on YouTube, because like what Beta said, have fun, because there may come a point where you become jealous of people because they suddenly grow in subs or views, but don't feel that way. I mean, it's natural, but just understand that you're there to, to do what you like doing, and it's not a race. So
for YouTube specifically, it's about the journey, not the end result.
Yeah.
Because on YouTube, there's no end result. Like
Passion first.
Even if I hit 100,000 subs, which was my ultimate goal on YouTube ever since starting, I'm still going to want to keep going. I'm still going to want to keep doing that. That's what I love. You should set goals for yourself, but the end goal shouldn't be what you're dedicated to. It should be the fun that you have in between them. I kind of compare it to furry conventions in some sense, because you can't go to every single one. You're going to have gaps in between. You might go to this one now, you might be going to like Anthrocon or MFF a year or so from now. And it's not about, when can I finally have that big moment? You kind of have to enjoy a bit of what you can find in your life in between. Those good events of being, even between conventions, hanging out with Pineapple Fox, hanging out with some of my fraternity brothers, as much as some of them might drive me insane. It's just finding the stuff in life that makes you happy.
9 minutes.
9 minutes, okay. Any more questions? You in the back, I see. You.
So I may be asking to compare apples with oranges, but how would you compare creating videos on YouTube to streaming on YouTube?
So with streaming on YouTube, or just streaming in general, it's more of what you can do in the act of something. It's similar to like this. I can plan like a presentation or panel all I want, but all that matters is what I'm able to do in the moment. With YouTube, you can go through all this fine refining and processing to make things look as great as they do. And in some sense, streamers kind of have that advantage of that they can understand the people for who they portray themselves to be then and there. And right now, there aren't too many people kind of in the furry community that do just raw streaming. I know like a couple on Twitch that do it, but it's not really something that's capitalized on. And how to really compare that, there really is no way besides expressing who you are just through an editing process, which is videos. So, hope I answered the question. You again, you had a question.
Someone on the live stream wanted me
It's me, but that's not my question.
It's
I
a
will
meme.
hopefully be getting my fursuit by Anthrocon this year, and I'll be showing it off then. Hopefully. More for less, please contact me, please. Please.
Buy as many fans as you can. This is gonna be hot.
Oh, you had your hand up in the back for a while.
Who's your motivation, like, out of everyone in the furry community?
Motivation. It's kind of hard to say because there are a lot of people that do have their own uniqueness that I kind of like grab from, like, oh, who can I necessarily make myself out to be that's me, but not necessarily someone. And it's really hard to pinpoint one specific person. But for the longest time for me, I'd say Ace of Heartsbox is probably one of like my biggest inspirations because every single video of his, it's just straight shot out of a cannon, just enthusiasm and positivity. It's like you get hit in the face with it, you love it. But for me, that's always been that. You know, every single video I've always gone to, just because that's just something that I enjoy, whether it's, you know, the more for less style of fursuit, whether it's his way of speaking or the topics that he has. Who knows? But for me, that's been my motivation for kind of what I've been taking as an approach on YouTube, per se. Jiro.
Okay, so the call to action thing, as YouTube calls it, like at the end where it's like, favorite, and subscribe. How effective even is that?
So, funny story, with YouTube, likes, I don't know how they go into the algorithm, but I do want to clarify something. If your video gets dislike botted.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about statistics. I'm talking about like literally at the end telling people to like, favorite, and subscribe. Does that even work?
There hasn't really been a study on if that works or not. I'd say just like, I'd say it's the same thing as like giving a reminder to someone, but most people already know that. I haven't heard that phrase or anything like that said in a video in forever, actually. But I'd say it sort of worked back in the day. It doesn't really work now because if people like and watch what you'll do, they'll be in the moment to be like, yeah, that video was great. I want to support this guy, sort of thing. It's sort of like to a lesser extent of like physically supporting through monetary payment on Patreon or anything. In a lesser extent, it's like, oh, how can I help this guy? I love what he does. I want him to keep doing this. Like and view or comment. And that's what people have sort of known on YouTube to be that best way to support people. It doesn't really work to say if you say it at the end. If you say it at the end, I will kind of judge you as being like a 2006 YouTuber.
Why not 2010?
All right. How much time is it?
4 minutes.
5 minutes? 4 minutes? Okay. We have speed questions. We have someone in the back who's going to raise their hand.
Have you had any copyright strike issues as of lately?
Actually, no, because I've kind of learned that that system is broken, and I don't necessarily have people that hate me enough that'll try to claim one moment of me saying a word and try to tie that to a song that has no relevance to it. I know people have had issues with copyright during like live streaming or videos that they've done in the past. But
Yeah,
but
like
YouTube
YouTube
is. Yes, I do. YouTube is, especially with like videos and such, they're kind of not forgiving, but they're very notifying of whether videos are prone to copyright or not. They'll have that little thing of like, oh, it's not monetized, but this is in the video. And that's like the first step of me being like, okay, I want to take this down like now and work on it. And I know people don't really do that. They're like, oh, I want to use this music in the video. I don't care if I don't get money from it. But over time, that might change to a strike because the people who do own that music or whatever are notified of that, and they can further create a copyright claim. I haven't gotten anything, God forbid, I hope I don't, because I do like live streaming on YouTube, and if I do get that, that's kind of taken away from me. But yeah, I haven't gotten anything, really. And then I guess a couple more questions we can do before minutes.
I had a question.
Yes.
It's kind of complicated, but I know there's famous YouTubers out there, fursers, non-fursuiters, and a lot of people will come to you and will ask, man, I like your videos. For example, you eat waffles, all different kinds of waffles from around the country, and they ask,
Waffles are pretty good.
exactly. You know, you go to Sweden, you get your Swedish fish. You go to Belgium, you get your Belgian waffles. You know, but
The question is, these people come to you and ask, I have no ideas to make long videos, and they ask you, they try and get ideas from you, and to me it feels like they're trying to copy you, and you don't want to just say, well, can't you come up with your own ideas? They're like, I have no ideas. I'm like, well, we'll jump on a pogo stick out the Grand Canyon, that's an idea. I guess it is.
I won't say I haven't thought of that idea multiple times.
You got the business and you're fun, but also there are ideas out there that haven't been done, which is unique, and you don't want to say it. But how do you tell these people, being polite, to say, come up with your own ideas without you sound like a jerk?
I don't usually phrase it in a way of like, oh, I have a new idea that you can do. I usually try to, whenever people ask me for advice for what they can do, I look at what they produce for content, and I look at what I produce for content. Because usually when they're asking me, I have some relation to what I can offer to them based on my content or my ideas. And usually what I'll do is I'll be like, I'll go to the channel and say, oh, what is good about this? This video was good, why? Or this video was bad, why? And I try to kind of like relate that with what I do. If it's like someone who randomly comes up and is like, what can I do for videos? I do this. I'm kind of trying to think of some ideas. And I usually tell people, oh, well, make a list of things. That's the main thing. And I use a list or to-do list of ideas. And I sort of make a web diagram of like this one idea, and how can I branch off to that in some way? You know, like eating waffles, oh, let's eat waffles in another way. Or
Still the idea.
But
because it does answer the question you did have with exactly YouTube, just come up with it and just do it. Just whatever,
like I said, living life and doing what you do, experiencing anything new, putting yourself out there to change and I guess be a better person and improve is kind of what helped me bring ideas to life. So I always recommend that to people. That's the first thing. So, that's it.
Did he do a good job?
If you have any questions for me, find me throughout the con. He's not here now because I know people are trying to go to another panel.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, my YouTube channel is over 20,000 subscribers currently.
Alright, I'm gonna try not to kill this Dan.
Yep, don't. It was nice meeting you too.
Huh? No, I lost it.
No, do you do
You didn't?
Yeah, no, do you do
Oh my god.